Well guys, we got us the perfect engine for Grandpa's truck. Picked this up a couple days ago now. This is a 5.3 LS Gen 3 engine, which I believe is called an LM-7. And the right deal popped up. We were actually looking forward to building an engine for Grandpa's truck, as you guys knew. But this deal popped up. It's already pre-built. It's exactly the way we would have built it. And it was a fantastic price for what it would cost to build one of these things. So we've got our power plant. I'm fired up. Let's go through this thing. I'll show you guys what it's all about, and then we'll continue working a little bit in Grandpa's truck, getting ready to receive this. So like I said, this is a 5.3. It's a Gen 3, and it's all been kind of gone through and built. The guy I bought it from, his name was Travis, and he actually races LS-powered BMW drift cars. So pretty badass, actually. So this was a backup motor for his BMW. Pretty cool. It's basically complete, right? We'll go through the valve train in a second, but that's all been gone through. The block and head have both been decked. It's got all new lower end bearings. It's got new rings. It's got the 706 heads, which from everything anybody tells me, that's worth a decent amount of power there. Those are the good heads. It's got a BTR Stage 3 truck cam in it, which is a 600 lift. So that's pretty... just about perfect, right? It's comparable to that truck Norris cam. It's got beefy valve springs in it to accommodate that. I do have the valley cover here. Right now it's got the pull plate on it, but I do have the valley cover. And obviously we're gonna be changing the oil pan, right? There's that specific oil pan we gotta use to clear the cross member on the S-10. So this was actually the perfect deal, right? It came with coil packs and everything on it. So this is just about perfect. Pull the valve cover off here so we can see it does have the beefy valve springs, obviously brand new valve stem seals. It's got the trunnion upgrade for the rockers, which these are kind of famous for, right? They got these tremendous C-clips here holding them in. That's pretty sweet. If I can get this thing to focus. Obviously that's pretty cool design there. These bolts for the rockers, Travis told me that these are upgraded. It's kind of a big deal in the LS world. Again, I'm such a rookie with these engines. I don't know, right? But valve train has been totally gone through. It's got the trunnion upgrade, right? So that's already done. It's got the cam. That's already done. It's got new lower end bearings. That's already done. So pretty much the way we would have built this engine is the way that it's built. So obviously we're pretty excited about that. Kind of saves us a bunch of time and money when you start adding it up. All new head studs, right? Like I said, it's got the 706 heads, which are the high flow heads, or so I'm told. And with this thing, our goal or our hope was 500 horse, right? Probably not going to be quite there, but start doing the math on it. I did some research on the components that are in this engine. About 300, 310, 315 horse stock, right? The BTR cam adds 70. From what I'm told, 67 to be exact. Block and heads are decked, a little bit higher compression. That might add a couple horsepower. The 706 heads add 20, from what I'm told. All the research that I've done. We're gonna, obviously, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I think I'm convinced to go back to the Terminator X direction. I was originally going to do that sleeper harness that we talked about that would run all the stock gauges and everything for the truck. But I think we're going to do Terminator X so we can really tune the thing. And from what I understand, these things really like some timing thrown at them above like 3,000 RPM, like significant timing. So we put in a tune that does that. We have a nice intake, right? High performance intake manifold. That's going to add 15, 20 horse. Nice headers. That'll add a few horse. So I think we're realistically approaching 425, 450, somewhere in that range for horsepower. So probably a little bit shy of that 500 number, but I mean, we're pretty darn close, and we don't have to put a dime into it, right? We bought the engine. Obviously, we're gonna have to buy the intake manifold and all that, but the engine is already pre-built. And this guy really seemed to know what he was doing. I always hesitate to buy an engine from somebody that I don't know, because who knows? I'd rather build it myself, right? I trust myself more than I do other people, but this guy really seemed to know stuff. So This guy, great conversation with him. He convinced me to do a couple different things on the truck, which we'll cover in a second. But what I'm thinking, I mean, my Challenger's got probably in that 420, 440 horsepower range. That's probably about where this engine's going to be. And this S-10 weighs about 60% probably of what that Challenger weighs. So this thing's going to be a rocket ship. So pretty darn excited. So I'm going to pop this valve cover back on, and we'll go to the front of the truck, and I'll go over a couple little different things that I'm actually considering doing after talking to Travis, who's like obviously a really big LS guy, right? That's kind of all he deals with at this point. So catch up with you in a second. So like we had talked about, we were going to do that, what I call a sleeper harness, where basically it comes with a ECM very similar. It's basically out of a Silverado, and then it comes with a harness that you pick your transmission, right? Which for us is going to be a 4L80. You pick what size LS you have, and it comes with a whole GM style harness. Runs the stock gauges, looks super stock, right? All that, but you have to tune it like a stock ECM, which is not ideal, right? The more I think about it, and the more I had talked to Travis and a couple of my other really close friends that are LS guys, I think we're going to go back and pivot and go the Terminator X direction, because we want to be able to really tune this thing in to get the most power out of it we can safely, right? I want to be able to throw timing at it at certain RPMs and kind of mess around with certain stuff. So we're going to go Terminator X, I think, and we'll pull the stock gauge cluster out of it. And they actually make a, which I actually knew they made, and Travis, actually, the guy who sold me the engine, actually talked to me about this. They make like an S-10 gauge cluster shape with a rectangle cut out of it for the Terminator screen. So should be fairly sleeper that way, right? But I think I'm less and less worried about the sleeper thing, and I just want to make it perform the best that it can. So we're going to go Terminator X, and I also think it sounds like that electronic throttle body may be the way to go. If you guys remember, I was talking about reusing this throttle cable and just running a cable throttle like any old throttle, but that electronic throttle is pretty cool. Travis had that on his BMW drift car, and basically you bolt the pedal to the floor. Can be out of whatever, Silverado, whatever, right? Bolt it to the floor, send some wiring through the firewall, and then basically it plugs into the throttle body, and you can then adjust throttle response, idle, all that stuff is much more consistent. So definitely leaning that direction, but we got a little ways to go. That's going to be obviously one of the last things we have to worry about. For now, I want to get this truck a little bit more stripped down, start planning. I need to figure out what to do with this steering shaft here. I know that the LS is probably not going to clear that. I know that we're going to have to modify the brake booster. Some guys just beat it in here for the head to clear, because your back coil pack is like resting against it basically. But that makes it so probably pretty darn difficult to get the valve covers off, and I don't really want that. So would like to keep power brakes, so I got to start looking into options for that. That's going to be one of the things that one of the bridges we have to cross when we get to it. I'm going to be thinking about that. AC, I am leaning more and more and more. In fact, at this point, I'm 90% sure we're going to go no AC. I kind of want the engine bay to look as clean as possible, so we're going to go that direction. But for now, I want to get this engine wiring harness out of here, get that out of our way. Probably we need to get that exhaust out of our way. I just want to start getting the thing stripped down so that we can be ready to start planning. At this point, now I'm looking for a 4L80 transmission to mate to that thing. Obviously, we're going to need to get a fairly high stall converter, 2500, 2800 with that cam, something like that. Higher stall converter, transmission, and Terminator X. Those are going to be kind of the three big spends left, and a rear end. But for now, let's start stripping this thing down, doing some planning. Pull this accumulator out of the way, we can get the harness out of there now.
harness is all out of there. This is our engine and transmission harness. Computer here, obviously. I don't think I'll need any of this. I might hang on to it just in case, but this is probably all trash. This is the engine side here, and then this is the transmission side. I did cut it while I was removing the engine. Accumulator is out of it. I got to pull the condenser coil out of the core support here today as well. That's on my to-do list. It's so nice in here with all that wiring gone, way more room, but we're gonna keep clearing stuff out, right? I'm gonna pull this coolant puke tank. Obviously we have no need for this. Pull that. We could pull this AC system apart. I don't know if they make like a block off plate here to get rid of all this. Pull the core out and then just, or if I'll have to get a heater box out of a non-AC truck because this is a blower motor here. So, either way, we'll start tearing all that down. I just want to get this thing as stripped out as possible. This stuff here, probably EGR system related. Yep, so this is all EGR. So, shoot, I can pull this whole deal here and just throw this in the garbage. We're not going to be using that. That'll open up some space there. And we're just going to keep going and clearing out this engine bay as much as we can here. Wiper motor obviously is going to stay. This is your PCM here, I'm guessing. That's probably going to go as well, but I'm going to ask some questions to some people who know Chevrolets and LS builds better than I do before I pull that. But we'll just keep on pulling her out and get this thing as cleared out as humanly possible here. Probably get rid of this plastic, get rid of that like halfway fan shroud there, and EGR system, all that. So let's keep on stripping. I love pulling stuff out, knowing I don't need it. You don't have to be careful. You're just ripping everything out of here. Saw there, the evaporator coil is now out. There's obviously squirrels have been in here, but here's your blower motor, right? There must be I'll have to do some research. I don't know if I'll have to get the blower box out of a non-AC truck or what, but there must be a snout that goes just directly into the heater core in here. Or some kind of retrofit kit or something. I'll have to do some research on that. But got that out of the way. Got a bunch of other stuff out of the way. The wiring to the EGR system, I got the EGR out of the way, but the wiring is all intertwined here into the starter relay, or what looks like a starter relay. Actually, I guess that's probably the starter relay. But either way, this relay right here, this junction box, if you want to call it, it's all kind of intertwined. And until I find out what the Terminator X comes with, I don't want to just completely disregard and throw that out. So I'm just going to leave that hanging there for now. But we got a lot of stuff out of the engine bay of this thing. Obviously, you saw the evaporator coil came out of it. The accumulator, all the wire and harness, a bunch of fan shroudage here, compressor for the AC, all the stock airbox stuff. So all this is going to get in the bed of my truck, except for might save that engine wire and harness just in case, but most of this is going to get loaded up into my other truck and go into the dumpster at work. So that's a lot of weight savings, a lot of crap out of the way here. Still got more to go, I think, but made some pretty good progress there. We got to clean up this cross member really good because I'm going to be like sitting in here, I think, at times, and just gonna have to start doing some research on that, on the steering shaft, on the brake booster. We'll have to see. Got to get this exhaust off of here, and I think I'll pretty much be pretty well stripped down. I mean, this is all headlight stuff. These are the impact sensors. Not sure if we're going to keep those or not. I'm guessing probably not, but we'll leave them here just in case. So got everything labeled, and we're pretty well stripped down. Now I just got to do some research. Pulling this condenser coil out now. Man, I can't believe how heavy and intricate that EGR system was. Glad to get that out of there. This thing's got, these coils are pretty light, but this is a little bit of weight here, and then obviously we took the evaporator coil out on the other end. Oh yeah, that's a good amount of weight savings right there. Now, could I jump on the old face space and get a couple $100 for this stuff? $100, maybe, but it ain't worth the effort. She's gonna go right in the dumpster. We don't need that where we're going. Kind of test fitting our radiator here in the core support in the where the condenser coil used to be, and it is pretty close to fitting. If we cut up this core support, we could probably scooch this radiator head, and she may go right in. I have to trim it up. I mean, is that compromising too much of the strength of the core support? I don't know. You guys comment below. Plenty of people before me have built these things, so I'm going to be doing research on YouTube for sure. But she's pretty close to fitting, and that'll gain us some room. Obviously, like I had mentioned before, a lot of guys that build these go with 93 to 98 Dodge Intrepid fans, electronic fans. So that'll be good. We'll wire those into our Terminator X, and it'll be able to set those at a consistent temperature. So I think that's going to be the move. We're just going to utilize this stock radiator. From what I'm reading, this stock radiator is plenty. Get the rest of the juice out of her here. All right, I'm procrastinating pulling the exhaust system off and dropping the fuel tank and all that because I'm still so blistered up from using that Sawzall when we pulled the engine. For you guys, pulling the engine was a couple weeks ago, but for me, that was like a couple days ago. So hands are still really beat up from that Sawzall. So not looking forward to pulling that exhaust, but we'll get to it. For now, I got the old mouse sucker. Hopefully this thing still runs. I sucked up a lot of water with it the other day. And we're gonna suck up all these pine needles. This thing, all inside the heater box, all up on the cowl. This thing really did sit under some pine trees, and the squirrels had their way with it, so. I'm gonna give it to you straight here. This truck, it had some pine needles in it. It had a few pine needles. I said it, okay? I'm admitting it. It had some pine needles. All right, so now I'm gonna wipe up this cross member, try to get most of the oil off of it, probably use a little brake clean, see if I can get that most of the way clean, because I'm gonna be spending a lot of time in here. So I want to get this area kind of as clean as I can. I don't really feel like rolling it out and pressure washing it at this point. It's just going to get dirty again as I'm mocking stuff up and fabricating stuff and this and that. So gonna work on that. Can you tell I'm procrastinating and I don't want to cut that exhaust off? So let's do that. Let's clean this. Got it cleaned up some, but we are going to have to spray her with some oven cleaner and pressure wash this thing to really get it clean. You know what's cool though? This sway bar right here, look at this. This engine leaked oil for a long time, and someone had replaced this at some point, I'm sure. Well, maybe not. It probably is the original one actually. But look how pristine that is. That's paint, that's not grease. It's not dirty. That's awesome. Thing looks like it just rolled off the showroom. Got this a little bit cleaner, but man, like I said, we're just gonna have to oven clean it. My plan of procrastinating against that exhaust is starting to come to an end. I'm just gonna have to suck it up and start cutting. Well, I got that far into my first cut, and my Harbor Freight Sawzall finally bit the dust. Every time there's any amount of resistance, it'll squeal, like the clutch or belt or whatever is bad in it. Whatever makes it go. So I can't really do much with it. So she's toast. But that thing took 5 years actually, of absolute weekly abuse. I mean, you could see the grip is all ripped up. This thing is toast. The old Chicago Electric plug-in model, not even battery powered. You guys know on this channel, I'm an advocate of doing stuff on a budget. And I don't think you always have to buy the very best tools. I got a lot of Ryobi stuff. Got the old Chicago Electric that served me very well, but she's finally toast. So, time to go get a Ryobi battery-powered one before I finish cutting this exhaust up. That's the end of that old girl. Just going in the S-10 graveyard over here. I will say these Diablo blades, incredible. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I changed a blade on this thing, and it's got, what, 2 broken teeth on it? And it's been probably an hour plus of cutting on this thing, and it's still completely usable. So pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna get the Ryobi to catch up with you once this exhaust is off. So I've lost my voice a little bit, but I've gained a Ryobi 1 Plus HP model. So you wouldn't believe it, this is my first cordless Sawzall. I am such a cheap person that I just use the cheapest tools I can. I just don't think there's that big of a difference in the quality. But having cordless is going to be sick. And it's going to work with all my other Ryobi batteries. So that's the model. Let's go see what it does. Dude, this thing has got way more chowder than the Harbor Freight. Dang. That's going to be sweet. Heck yeah, got a little light on her. Nice. All right, 531 pounds of exhaust is off of the truck. One small complaint on the Ryobi. Doesn't have a lot of length on the, like the blade goes really far back in there. That's about as extended as it gets. So you never get that full blade length, you know? Yeah, that's as far out as it'll get. And you've still got several teeth that maybe I could slide this guy in a little bit and get a little bit more out of it, but it just doesn't seem like I'm getting enough blade length on it. So that was a little bit of a pain getting that cut. But other than that, not too bad for like $109 or something. I think the next step is going to be to remove all this heat shielding here. I'm gonna have to drill out some rivets, it looks like. But kind of got that on both sides. From everything I've kind of read, you need every inch of space you can get in here. So removing this heat shielding will gain us, you know, a good ½ inch in places. So I think that's what I'm gonna go to work on now. Start drilling some rivets out. All right, so 731 of these purple rivets later. We got all the heat shielding removed. Luckily these rivets are aluminum. Wasn't much to them. Was able to buzz right through them. So got it. Both sides of the transmission tunnel are off, as well as this one. These two connected, and this one continued along back to shield against exhaust, I guess. Muffler sat right there. So now we've got this thing totally open, which helps. And from what I've read, this little seam here where the firewall meets the transmission tunnel needs to be beat in flat so that a 4L80 will clear that. So gonna have to beat that in, and not too concerned about it about ruining the paint, because I am gonna be painting this whole engine bay, so not too worried about chipping all the paint off. So I just gotta beat this thing flat. There's quite a gap there. It's about, I would say, right here probably 3/4 of an inch. Right here maybe 1 inch. So you're gonna gain a lot of clearance by beating that seam in. So I'm gonna beat that in while we're here. Throw this stuff in the bed of the truck. Well, we've got our bead in there pretty flat now. I'm gonna move this light so you can see a little better. There's one little piece right there. I'm gonna have to beat back a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty well flattened out. And that's gonna give us enough clearance for that new transmission tunnel to fit under there. Of course, on the subject of never having the right tools, we're using a carpentry hammer for it, right? I don't have a nice dead blow hammer. I hope that this channel shows you guys that you can do big projects like this on a budget. You don't have to have the fancy tools. You don't have to have the name brand stuff. You don't have to have Snap-on, Milwaukee, right? You can build stuff on a budget, man. These tools get the job done the exact same way that an expensive set of tools does. So I always want to be that guy, no matter how much kind of financial stability I have. I always want to be the budget guy, because I don't know, I like seeing what I can build for the least amount of money, right? And I think that that's more relatable to most people. So I know that when I watch YouTube, I really like the channels that do stuff on a budget versus the stuff, you know, I love seeing these beautiful $100,000 race cars being built, but I'll never have one. So like to kind of do it on the budget so that it's relatable. All right, we're ready to head to a dumpster, drop all this stuff off. And I think we've got this thing kind of set up to where we could really start scheming now on putting this engine and transmission in. Got to find a transmission. Anybody knows of a 4L80 that's already pre-built, let me know. It'd be kind of nice. I've been looking at some junkyard ones, but then I'm going to put a couple grand into building it because I want it to be bulletproof. So, because from what I understand, once this engine transmission package goes in here, you can't pull it out just the transmission independently. You'd have to pull it all out as a whole unit or lift the cab mounts, or undo the cab mounts, lift the cab up. So I want it to be a bulletproof transmission so I never have to worry about it. So I think we've made great progress. We've essentially got the truck ready. I do have to figure out clearance on the brake booster. What do I do with this ABS module? Do I go to some kind of hydro boost system, or got to figure out what I'm going to do there? Got to figure out what I'm going to finish this blower box off with, or if I'm just going to remove it completely. Not sure. And then got to just start scheming, cleaning all in here. You know, I'm not going to film all that. Gonna eventually paint it all in here. I want a fully black engine bay so that obviously a nice looking engine pops nice when you have a fully black engine bay. And really looking forward to getting a flywheel and or flex plate, sorry, and getting the transmission and getting this baby put in. So pretty excited about it. As always, thank you guys for hanging out with me. We'll see you on the next one.